her heart's 101 years old, and so she's had a couple of spells where she did have to spend the night in the hospital, or longer, and it hasn't been very long though. And then she's back home again, and eventually, it might be a heart problem that takes her, but her mind is still sharp, and she's still able to do many things for herself. Well, I've forgotten now what year it was that Grandma came over, but I think she was 18. And if she just turned 101 in 2009, she must have been born in 1908. So she must have come over in the 20s. And the deal was that she had an older brother that had lung problems in England. And so they had heard that going to Canada, where it was dry, especially in Alberta, where the weather was so much drier, this would be good for him, health-wise. And my grandmother, Grandma Lylie, she was the only daughter in a family of 7, but she could accompany my great-uncle, I guess, because she wasn't married or anything. And so actually it was her employer, she was working for this couple, they paid for her ticket. But her mother didn't want her to go, and she only allowed her to go because Grandma promised that, once she got Uncle Percy here, that she would turn around and go back home again. But my grandmother never actually intended to go back home again. When she got to Canada, she just really enjoyed that freedom that she had. And so she decided to stay. She put off going back. And it wasn't long before she met my grandpa. He is from English descent as well. When they met and fell in love, it wasn't until after Grandma was married to Grandpa and had my mom the next year in 1929 that she ever went back to England, because then she knew her mother couldn't stop her from getting back, because now she was a married woman with a family. Grandma had 5 children altogether, and during the 30s, when times were tough because the farm didn't do very well and had to support their family as well, my grandmother actually worked out of the house and helped out down at a diner as a assistant cook for quite some time. And she even served tables and such before that. And so then they lived on the farm with Grandpa Hambly, with Great-Grandpa Hambly, while the children were growing up. They eventually got their own farm down on Maxey Road when my mom was a teenager, so in the 40s. And they lived there for many years. I can remember the house on Maxey Road with a tire swing out front. And going there, and Grandma they had a cherry tree and an apple tree in the backyard. And so Grandma made cherry pies and apple pies. And it always seemed like Grandma had 50 pies frozen in her freezer that she could just whip out and whip up for us as soon as we got there. So that was always the thing about going to see Grandma, was getting some homemade pie. Grandma had a little bit of help coming in. There was neighbors that just loved her dearly and would check up on her all the time. Aunt Mary and Aunt Ann both lived close to town, and they would come in and make sure that she was okay and everything was all right with her. And then Ray's wife passed away, and he was in his house all on his own and wasn't sure what to do. And my grandma started getting a little bit more health problems, unable to maybe get up easily and things like that. So after Uncle Ray's wife passed away, he decided to move in with Grandma. It's just put everybody's mind at ease if someone was in the house with her at all times. But of course, she still fusses, and you go there and she still wants to get up and make you tea and make sure there's biscuits for you to eat. She no longer makes pies, and really enjoys people coming over. But she's still that mother hen-ish and wants to help you out. So my grandmother has been a mother, and then a grandmother, and then a great-grandmother, now a great-great-grandmother, several times over. Some of those great-great-grandchildren are nearing 20. They'll be 19 this year, the first 3 of them. So in the next few years, should Grandma last out, we could easily see 6 generations. And that would be very cool.